Thank you for tuning in to The Kingdom is Within, the unspoken truth about the Messiah Jesus, a black extraterrestrial being. I thank you, and I know you had a lot of things that you could have been doing, but you decided to tune in to this program, and we're going to do everything in our power to make this worth your while. Well, this month is Black History Month, and we want to talk about a history that has never been talked about, but this information is going to absolutely floor you. Let's talk about what's the real history of the black race on this planet. These people have us thinking about what's called the poof theory. Like, Adam and Eve was created and poof, and they magically appeared. You know what I'm saying? And they got us thinking about angels and ghosts and stuff like that. Let's talk about what's real. And our program, the whole mission of this program is to make your light bulb in your mind go click. And that's what's important, because we're listening to people that really don't know what they're talking about. They think they know what they're talking about. And I'm not saying, I don't want to seem like I'm going and talking about ministers that don't know, but you have a lot of sincere brothers and sisters that's out here really wanting to tell the facts and tell the truth. And we go to these theologian schools, and school in Hebrew is shul. And in Hebrew it means hell, literally. And so we go to these theologian schools and we're being taught things to bring out here to our people. But the problem is that they're not really teaching what Jesus actually taught. And let's talk about Jesus and what he actually taught and who he was and where he was from. Because what they want you to think is that this poof theory, this ghost type theory, well, the reality is that Jesus said, I'm not from here. I'm from another world. I only came here to tell you a few things, and then I'm going back to where I came from. And he didn't say he was going back on a cross. That's an absolute fact. He said that he was coming here to bear witness to the truth. And in other words, to set the record straight, to help connect you to your own spirit, because the people that's running the planet are Satanists. Let's be real about this. These people, they know certain things that you have no clue about, such as they have disconnected us from the source of our own being. They're playing with our souls, and they've taken everything else. So we have got to make sure that we are intact with our own soul, to make sure that our children are intact with theirs. They have disconnected you from the source of your own being, and that's why you always saying, man, something told me to do that. Or man, something told me not to do that. What is that something that's trying to talk to you? That's the spirit within you that you know nothing about, but you do know because you're always saying, something told me to do that. Or something told me not to do it. So that's what we're talking about. To reconnect you back to that spirit through prayer is when you talking to God, or talking to the God within you. And meditation, that's the part that they took out to disconnect you. Meditation is when you are listening to the spirit within you, or listening to God. Because there is power in silence. And the bottom line is that these people know that there's power in silence. Your greatest ideas come through silence. You hear things in silence that you can't hear no other way. That's why they got us playing games and listening to music and listening to this, blah, 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 blah. And we gotten away from everything. We're doing all kind of activities, and there is no time for silence. This silence is very important, and that's why it talks about in the sacred place of the Most High. The sacred place of the Most High is in silence. This is where you will hear things that are audible on a higher level of thought that you cannot hear down here. So in other words, the Most High is trying to get through, but your line is busy. He's trying to get through, but the line is busy, because you're running, and our minds has got rampant thoughts. I call them these ghosts of the past, of events and things that have taken place in our lives. That you didn't have your mother, didn't have your dad. You might have been molested or raped or whatever. But the point is, we can all get past these things, but they disconnected that. Take that other part of a formula that Jesus came to give us, because 2,000 years ago, everybody was praying. So when he came on the set, he said, listen, I came to the planet from somewhere else, And I came to give you some information. And the information that he gave was a formula. And a baker, if you was a baker, then you know a formula is something that works if you use the whole formula. If you're trying to bake oatmeal raisin cookies without raisins, you're going to get a cookie, but it ain't going to be an oatmeal raisin cookie. So it's the same thing without doing Jesus' whole formula. You're getting things, but you're not getting everything that you could have got because you only did half the formula, which was prayer, talking to God, asking for this, begging for that. You follow me? And you haven't not been given the other half of the formula, which is meditation. And I'm going to tell you, there's a teaching in the Smithsonian Institute called the Sacred Communication of Silence. What is it doing in the Smithsonian Institute? And why don't the church have it? That's the point. The church do not have what Jesus taught. And these are facts. We have to deal with the truth and facts and the reality of things and get away from this ghost type theory. Like Jesus, he just appeared and he died on the cross and he floated up. And when he come back, he's going to be floating in the air and we are going to float up there with him. Are you kidding me? This is what they have put in our minds. And that's why we're dealing with the reality. I say a black extraterrestrial being because that's exactly who he was. Now let's go to the beginning. There's a story, the ancient Sumerian story is this. This is the first history of the black race on this planet. I say the black race because this is a black man's story. And that's all I got to say about that. Everybody else want to grab our story and tell their part of the story, like they ran this new, what's this new movie came out, Exodus. You know what I'm saying? Last time it was Charlton Heston as Moses. Now we got a new Caucasian acting as Moses. And that's what they want to keep drilling in us and keep putting these movies out with these white and Caucasian characters. Scrap all of that, because that's not true, none of it. These were black men, all of them. And the Caucasian race was the cursed race that came on the scene after the flood. We'll talk about that later. But back to ancient Sumeria. There's a story, if you go and check it out, they will never tell you this was a black race of people. But there's a story where an alien race came to the planet from somewhere else, carved out the Blue Nile, the White Nile, the Euphrates, and the Tigris, set everything up to prepare for development. Just like they would have to do on the moon. If they went to the moon, they would have to prepare for development. So these beings came here and they prepared for development and they built the pyramids and all these huge monumental structures. And that's why they can't crack that code, because that code and technology came from another world. They would never crack that code, period. It ain't happening all these tens of thousands of years, and it ain't gonna happen. They cannot crack the code because the technology came from another star system. But now, they came here from another star system, did everything on the planet, they did all that building, and they put pictures of their aircraft and ships inside the pyramid walls. And the only way that the Caucasian race took over the earth is after these beings left the earth and went back to their star system. All the prophecies is talking about these beings coming back and forth, back and forth. Enoch. Enoch is the first one born that did not pass through this existence in what they call death. There's no such thing as death, and these people were trying to create fear by telling us, oh, you're dying and this and that and all. Let's scrap that too. Because they took all of Jesus' teachings away from us to keep us up under their rule, up under their thumb, and to have you thinking about things that's just not true. Now, these beings was on the planet. These are the beings that hit Sodom and Gomorrah with a nuclear blast. Who was going to stand up and argue with these beings? Nobody. When they left and went back home is when the Caucasian race was allowed to take over this planet. And they were allowed to do that for a certain period of time, 6,000 years. So when you hear that 6,000 year history, that is the history of a mankind, a kind of man. That is not the history of the Hugh man, the man of Hugh. That's their history. And so, me, myself, I'm raised in the church all my life. And the point is, I got to the point that I knew it was something wrong at 13 years old. And what happened was, I was going to Catholic school. And then my mother allowed us to go to Catholic church while they went to Baptist churches. I was going to Catholic church all the way till I was 13 years old. And instead of getting a bar mitzvah at 13, I got the shock of my life. And listen to this. I'm in Catholic school and, you know, going to the Catholic church and everything. And when you're in Catholic school, priests don't have children. They don't marry, they don't have children. This is what I'm raised to believe from 7 years old all the way up to 13. Now, in my mind, priests don't get married, they don't have children. Because I remember when I was about 7 and the priest came in and said, well, Mac, don't you want to be an altar boy? And I was like, well, wait a minute. Don't altar boys become priests? And they said, yeah. I said, well, priests don't have girlfriends or don't get married and have children? They said, well, no. I said, no, I don't want none of that. Because there was a young girl named Alicia Perrin. I'll never forget. Thank God for Alicia Perrin, because I was crazy about this girl. We in 2nd grade. And so if it wasn't for Alicia Perrin, I might have been an altar boy being molested with everybody else. I don't know what would have happened. But the point is, when they came up talking about that, I'm like, no, I don't want them to have nothing to do with none of that. Because I'm crazy about this girl right now. So, all through my life, up to 13, I'm knowing this priests don't have children. So now, for the first time, I go to a Baptist church with my great-grandmother and my grandmother and my mother. It's some little kids running around the church, and I'm asking my brother, hey, man, who kids are these badass kids running around here? He said, oh, that's the minister's kids. Oh, I'm floored when he said this. Minister's kids? He said, yeah, that's the minister's kids. I said, whoa. How the minister got children? He said, well, man, I don't know, minister got kids. I said, oh, now we got a problem. You know, as they say, Houston, we got a problem. And my problem was, while everybody in there jumping and shouting and falling out over Jesus, I'm this 13-year-old kid sitting there like, no, damn that. I want somebody to tell me why this priest got children. And then they tell me about, well, you know, the minister, it's a difference. No, damn that difference. I don't care about none of that. I want you to tell me why I've been raised to believe that priests don't have children, but this priest got one. I'm not, in my 13-year-old mind, I'm not able to distinguish the difference between a minister and a priest. Damn all that. This is where the confusion come in. So at 13, I knew it was something wrong. I mean, drastically wrong. Because that ain't no like thing to a 13-year-old kid when you raise that priests don't have children and don't get married to all of a sudden this priest here do. So I didn't care nothing about the different titles and stuff. You're a priest. Damn what you talking about in my young mind. So the point is, I knew then that was something not right. So what happened? I can't talk to the church because, you know, they lying. You follow what I'm saying? So I wound eventually hitting the street. And then after hitting the street and going through the changes and going to prison and got out, I decided to dedicate myself back to the Most High. Because my spirit was always intact. So, well, I ain't going to say always, but my spirit was intact. But you know, they say the spirit is weak, the body is willing, or whatever it is. The body's weak and the spirit is willing. But the point is, I got back to who I was supposed to be. And in my research, I started looking at the facts, and not only the facts. And the facts is that I didn't know what to believe. And then through prayer and meditation, that meditation is profound, because through meditation, I was inwardly, from my inner being, led to a man that I knew nothing about. And his name is Elijah Muhammad. And I need you to hear this, because I knew nothing about this man, but my spirit led me, and I heard it in silence. I just heard his name in silence. And it led me to go and get his books. And I read that man's books, and I'm telling you, I was absolutely floored by the information that this brother had. And while you had a lot of people in the church talking about, because when I got back into the church, well, you shouldn't be listening to them niggas, you know what I'm saying? They Muslims. You follow what I'm saying? And I'm like, yeah, well, meanwhile, let me read what he's talking about. You know, damn what y'all talking about, because there's a bunch of BS going on around there anyway. Got 1,000 different denominations. Y'all can't come together to start a grocery store. You can't come together to start a clothing store. So I don't even listen to these niggas. And when I say nigga, I want you to understand one thing. I talk about the niggas from Acts 13:1, because somebody took that word and made it into something bad. But the word nigger is not actually a bad term, because if it wasn't bad 2,000 years ago when they dropped it in Acts 13:1, it ain't bad, period. Somebody took it and turned it into something derogatory because they hated not who we are, but they hated who they were not. And so we are the descendants of them same niggas talked about in Acts 13:1. And who are they? It says in the land of Antioch you had certain prophets and newsbearers such as Barnabas and Simeon, who were called nigger. Now I got a cousin said, well, Mac, no, that's Niger, it's 1G. Nigga, please, are you kidding me? Don't be ridiculous. That's the game that they playing with us. You know what I'm saying? Because they put 1G in there, it's not nigga. Yeah, okay, well, meanwhile, nigga, you understand what I'm saying? We gonna call it the way it is. So anyway, back to the Sumerian story. These beings came here from somewhere else, and when Jesus came to the planet, he was one of these beings that came from where these beings came from. So we got to connect the dots on this story. This brother said, I'm not from this world, I'm from another star system. This is what he said, I'm from another world. So that means, yes, he was a black extraterrestrial being who came to this planet from somewhere else. Just like the prophet Enoch, who was the first one born who was allowed to be put on one of these ships, and they took Enoch with them. It's written in the book of Enoch that he's the one that they took out in the orbit. He charted the movement of the stars and the planets, brought that information back down, gave it to Methuselah and his children, and told them that he was going back to that world with these beings. So that's why it's time for us to get out of the poof theory. You know what I'm saying? They want you to think about ghosts and all this stuff. Angels are men. Excuse me. Angels are men that has always come back and forth to this planet. The angel Michael, the angel Gabriel, Uriel, Raphael. These are black men who has always come back and forth to this planet. And that's what this is all about us saying things to make your light bulb go off, for you to get away from that poof theory, and for your light bulb to say click, and you be like, oh my God, okay, it's time for me to really start thinking. And that's why they took Jesus' information away from us, so we would be lost in listening to them and their authority and everything they say and this and that. But we have to do something, because there's a war against us. There's a war against us because prophetic things are taking place. Prophecy is happening, and we don't have a clue about what's really going on. The messenger, Elijah Muhammad, talked about this mother plane in our midst in the 30s. Can you imagine what people thought about that man in the 30s, talking about a mother plane is out in orbit? Well, what was he talking about? John in the Revelations is talking about the same thing. John is talking about, and I saw, when John was taken to the future, he was taken to the future. Remember this now, when the angel Michael appeared to John, John fell on his knees to the angel, and the angel was like, oh no, get up, man, you're going to get me in trouble. You follow what I'm saying? I am a servant to you, and you are a servant. We are all servants. That's what this is. So anyway, he took the angel Michael, took him up into the future. He traveled into the future to see future events, whether it was through a vision, however way it happened. He saw a holy city coming down. He said, and I saw the holy city coming down, a new Jerusalem. Nobody want to talk about that. Where Elijah Muhammad talked about the mother plane is here, he was talking about that vision that John had. This new Jerusalem, this holy city is in orbit, and it is going to come down. That movie, Independence Day, is a mockery of something that is going to take place. And when it takes place, if people don't know what's really happening, you're going to run around the street freaking out and stuff, because movies like Independence Day and all these Men in Black and all this have you think about monsters. And when they talk about aliens, they want you to think about monsters and stuff like that. Well, aliens is anybody that's coming here from somewhere else. Now, you do have different types of beings, but we're talking about a black race that's out in orbit. There is life on other planets, period. Even when Jesus said, our Father who art in heaven, that's not what he said. If you translate that word heaven, it says Orion. the Orion star constellation. So that means he's saying, our Father who art in Orion. He was talking about other star systems. These people taking us away from that, again, with the poof theory. Poof, and it will all happen. Poof, Adam and Eve was made. Poof, you know what I'm saying? Poof, Eve was walking through the garden and talked to a snake. And all this ridiculous nonsense that they have put in our minds so we don't think. And we sit back like, oh, okay. You know, come on. This is ridiculous. Ain't no snake do no talking. Now, there's a snake type of being. You know, you got people in the street call themselves snake. What's up, snake? Okay. These are the types of beings that they have. People that cannot be trusted. A conniving person. A deceitful person. This is what this is what happened with Eve in the garden. Wasn't no snake on no tree. You don't see up there talking a snake whispering. They say a whisperer. So that means this snake was like, psst, come here. Now, you know damn well if you saw a snake whistling, you ain't running towards the snake. You run in the opposite direction, and I ain't got nobody that can say anything other than that. This is common sense. So we dealing with common sense right now, and for you to make your light bulb go click and get away from, see, their number one thing is to keep us believing what it is that they have taught us. But let me tell you something. Once we get away from the story that they told us about Jesus and deal with the facts, they're going to be like, oh, Lord, the niggas have woke up. You know what I'm saying? That is the number one thing that they want to keep us away from, is waking up. Because as long as we sleepwalking and they can tell us these ridiculous stories and have us saying, oh, okay, because they know we kind of lazy. We don't, a lot of us don't like to do our own reading. We like to go to church and listen to what the pastor say. And we like to feel good. And that's why I tell my mother, my grandmother left here at 90 years old. And one thing I can say, my grandmother left here with the truth, the facts. She joined our meditation group at 75 years old and said, my God, Mac, I've never experienced nothing like this. My grandmother said, you answered all the questions that I had in my mind since I was a child. I never thought it would come through my grandson. And I wasn't no preacher, no minister. But what I did get a minister's license because I wanted to do certain things. But I said, well, Grandma, we dealing with truth and facts. And the truth and facts is that Jesus came to this planet, and they want you to say, well, he came down here, and we had a right to do all the things we did to him because that's why he came. Oh, yeah, right. Meanwhile, if this man came here to die for our sins, when they came to get him, he wouldn't have been running. He would have turned himself in. He wouldn't have sat up there and said, Father, let this cup pass away from me. He was talking about the things that these people was trying to do to him. Now, if he knew that he came here to die for our sins, he wouldn't even say that out of his mouth. He'd have been a willing sacrifice. And then in Luke, I think, I can't think of it, but in Luke it said, and this brother sweated blood. Oh, my God. You got to be nervous as something I can't even put it into words to sweat blood. So now, do that sound like a man that was a willing sacrifice that came here to die for our sins? Absolutely not. And we ain't dealing with that nonsense no more. Everything they taught us on the plantation, we got to scrap it because they playing with our souls. They playing with the souls of your children. And if you don't want to get into this, that's fine. But do it for the sake of your children. How much do you really love your children? And are you absolutely sure that what you teaching your children is an absolute fact? No, you're not. And if you think you are, then you need to look in the mirror and check yourself because you're out of order. You are misleading your own children without doing the real investigation and having you. That's the problem. 150 years off the plantation, and we are still dealing with this story that they've been giving us. Oh, Jesus came here and died for our sins. So let me explain something to you. He did not come to change the law. There's a law on this planet that works, and there's no man that can come down here and change the laws of the Most High. That's like coming here and putting a seed in the ground and stopping a tree from growing. Now, Jesus had the ability to put his hand on something or say the word, and like he did with that tree, and it had bared no more fruit. Now, he could do things like that. But he did not and could not come here and change the law that the Most High put on this planet. He came here to introduce us to the Most High, and they introduced us to him. But Jesus this, Jesus that. No, that's not what he came here for. And that's the bottom line. He came again to introduce us to the Most High and the ability to reach the Most High through silent communication. And that's why that teaching in the Smithsonian Institute is called the silent communication of silence. Because this is what he was here to teach us. They took it away to disconnect you again so they can put this nonsense in your head. This is real stuff. This man came here. There is no way he could change the law. Why? Because if he came here to fulfill the law, he fulfilled the law that the Most High gave, the commandments and the laws of the scripture. He came to fulfill that in his life so he could show us how to fulfill it in ours and have a more fruitful life, a more abundant life. And you got those say, oh, he's talking about getting rich. Oh, yeah, meanwhile, that's another trick of the devil to have you chasing riches. You follow what I'm saying? You have a more fulfilling, more abundant life. You're fulfilled in your life. There's no stress. There's no this. There's no that. Money comes. But the bottom line is that you don't hold to chasing money. They got people chasing money. Jesus said you have a more abundant life. And they're attaching abundance to wealth and riches. That's another trick of the devil with that prosperity teaching. You know what I'm saying? Damn all that prosperity teaching. That's going to come. Let's focus on the number one key thing, prayer and meditation. That is critical because it's important for you to read the scripture, to pay attention to it, read it, pray, meditate, because now you have a connection to the source of your own being. Without that connection, you are wide open for demonic spirits to take over your body and just have you out here wigged all out and stuff. Like you see people that you see a person that was completely okay, and then you see him again, they are wigged out downtown or walking the street and stuff. Why? Because it's said, and the brother that's with us now, Dr. Malachi Z. York, I'm telling you, this brother here is Melchizedek in the flesh amongst us. This is our teacher. I've never met a teacher like this in my entire life. He's the most profound teacher on this planet. You can take a whole football field of the most scholarly men in every area you can think of. Geology, geography, history, science, math, astronomy, astrology. Put them all in a football, physics. Put them all in a football field and have this one man on the stage. And they can all ask him any question they want and he can answer every one of them. But then he get a chance to ask all of these scholarly men just one question and they can't answer it. Now, whenever you have a man like that on the planet, it's critical for us to know about this man. And that's all I got to say. Now, Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he talked about another man that was going to come to this planet. And this man is here. He said, when you see these ships coming, when he talked about this mother plane, he said, know for a fact that there's a civilization of people on these ships that look like us. He documented this in a book called The Theology of Time in 1972. When a man says something like that, I'm like, oh my God, we can't afford to disregard what this man said. Especially when a being comes to the planet and said, well, you know, Elijah Muhammad told y'all that there's a mothership out there. He told you that there were beings on this ship that looked like you. He said, and here I'm a brother here from these ships, and the brother's got information that's so profound. Just go, and I tell you